Part 9. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 81. Chapter 81 Zhangziu exits. Although the little guy is a little naughty, he is also timid. It's just that I feel the kindness radiated from the people around me, which makes it look bolder. No one would believe it would do something like actively hurting someone. But it was just done. How could it not shock people? After Yu Hui came back to his senses, he walked quickly to Zhangziu and saw that the scratches on her face were not serious but only slightly broken. He breathed a sigh of relief and comforted, "It's okay, it's just broken a little skin, a little redness, it'll be fine in a day or two." Zhangziu felt so angry that he almost lost his breath after hearing these words of comfort. This is said easily, but it just scratches the surface. How important is the face of a female star? Is it necessary to say more? Not to mention a little broken skin, even if there is a pimple, she can't tolerate it, and it's too conspicuous in the camera. Not to mention that the wound was scratched by an animal. Not only was it dirty, but it was also filled with bacteria. Just thinking about it, she felt the broken skin on her face hurt and itched, and she couldn't care less about responding to Yu Hui's comfort. Zhang Kaiwen was standing not far from the two of them, his expression now a little more complicated. He has spent as much time with Zai Zai as Zhang Lingzi, so he naturally knows how well behaved Zai Zai is. Even if he is teasing him in a friendly way, he will not extend his paw towards him, let alone hit him with his paw before he can hug him. He could only think of one possibility that Zai Zai would do such a thing. Zai Zai's injury was probably caused by Zhangziu, as Zhang Lingzi said, so he found an opportunity to stretch out his claws to avenge himself. Why did Zhangziu do this? How could she bear to hurt such a cute little guy? Zhang Kaiwen is destined to not get the answer. Because Zhangziu directly pressed the button to give up. When she was so hungry that she scratched her heart and lungs, she didn't press the button. She didn't press the button when she was embarrassed in the rain. When she shamelessly ate the piece of rabbit meat, she didn't even press the button. But now it was about the most important face of the female star, and she couldn't persuade herself to continue filming. There is another reason that even she doesn't want to admit to herself. She is a little afraid of the current Zhang Lingzi. Not only because the other party performed better than her in this survival battle, which made her whole person look bleak, but also because every time Zhang Lingzi looked towards her, she felt like she had been completely seen through. Just take advantage of this opportunity to be accidentally scratched and choose to quit. The moment she pressed the automatic give up button, she even breathed a sigh of relief in her heart. Zhang Kaiwen also breathed a sigh of relief. He has already confirmed Zhang Lingzi's suspicion in his heart. Now that Zai Zai has scratched Zhangziu again, there is no guarantee that Zhangziu will hurt Zai Zai again. It's better to just leave like this. This series of changes also shocked the audience who were watching the live broadcast. After the barrage in the live broadcast room went blank for a moment, voices defending Zai Zai began to appear one after another. Zai Zai is still so young, so he definitely didn't mean to hurt anyone. What does the little panda cub know? Maybe it just wants to express its enthusiasm by extending its paws. It's just a little red after being lightly patted. Isn't it a bit of a fuss for Zhangziu to give up just for this choice? The female star's face is so delicate, she spends tens of thousands of dollars on her face every day, but Zai Zai definitely didn't do it on purpose. She's so small, so what does she know? Chi Chen pursed his lips as he looked at the voices on the barrage that were all explaining the panda cub. He has been studying pandas for most of his life, and now he can even guess part of their body language. In his opinion, Zai Zai's move just now was definitely intentional. As for why he tickled the female guest, there must be something hidden in it. Although Zhang Lingzi couldn't see the barrage in the live broadcast room, she could more or less guess what the audience would say. It can be said that the audience's reaction was what she expected. In this matter, she can certainly teach Zhangziu a lesson about doing evil quietly, but it is not as convenient and direct as doing so. The key is that it can also relieve the little guy's anger. The people from the program team came very quickly, and they were already quietly following the path taken by the guests, so that they could rush over in time when the guests encountered difficulties or were in danger of physical injury and chose to give up. The accompanying doctor was also fully equipped with a portable medical kit, but he couldn't help but feel a little depressed after seeing the wounds on Zhang Ziyu's face that had healed even after he arrived a little later. This is it worth giving up? You must know that they are less than 3 days away from their destination. After simply disinfecting the poison with the iota 4 cotton swab in the medical kit, Zhang Ziyu turned around and smiled weakly at the teammates who were looking over in silence. I'm sorry that I can't continue with you. I want to thank you very much these days. Yu Hui, brother Su, Kaiwan, and sister Ling 11 for their help. I wish you all the best in your subsequent journey. Yu Hui nodded lightly towards her. Take care, goodbye. Also say goodbye to the innocent and naive self that I once was. Su Zhao only nodded. His impression of Zhang Ziyu was average from the beginning, and sometimes he would even subconsciously ignore such a person. As for the other party's beautiful face, what does that have to do with him? He can't be eaten in this jungle. His impression of Zhang Lingzi was average at first, and it gradually changed after they met and got along by chance. For him, ability is the most important, and everything else is secondary. Zhang Kaiwan opened his mouth, but did not say goodbye. Zhang Lingzi just pretended not to hear the farewell. She had strong self-control if she didn't slap Zhang Ziyu's other face. So saying goodbye like this seemed a bit awkward. Zhang Ziyu turned his back to the camera and almost failed to control his distorted expression. This trip, not only did she suffer a lot, she also suffered a thankless job in the end, losing all her money. All this is because of Zhang Lingzi. It seemed that her nagging aunt was absolutely right. Zhang Lingzi was really her lifelong enemy. She failed this time, but the future is long, just wait and see. Asterisk. There was suddenly one person missing from the team, and Yu Hui originally thought that he would feel a little uncomfortable. But after half a day's journey, he found that there was nothing he was not used to. On the contrary, because he no longer had to take care of Zhang Ziyu, who would fall behind from time to time, the half-day journey actually felt more relaxed than before. When it was finally his turn to hold the panda cub on the way, Yu Hui carefully took the little one from Zhang Lingzi's hand. When he saw the solace of its feet that were fixed, his heart moved inexplicably. After Zhang Lingzi walked forward, he lowered his head and leaned close to the little guy's furry ears, and asked in a low voice as if talking to himself, "Zay Zay, we all hugged you, but why did you only give Zhang Ziyu one paw?" He didn't expect to get an answer after asking, unless the little guy became a spirit. He shook his head and smiled and was about to chase his teammates in front of him. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw the little guy in his arms gently shaking his injured foot towards him. Yu Hui's pupils shrank suddenly when he saw this, and he was startled by the sudden speculation in his heart. End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 82. Chapter 82. It was really you who did it? Li Shuo looked at Zhang Ziyu, who came off the helicopter. His eyes fell on the few red marks that were still faintly visible on the side of her face, and she sighed in her heart. Zay Zay suddenly hurt someone before, not to mention the guests at the scene and the audience in the live broadcast room. He was also shocked. Probably because his life was saved by humans, what he had seen before on the camera was the friendliness of little guys towards humans. I never thought that the little guy had this side. Besides, even if a threat is perceived, the possibility of giving a slap to men like Su Zhao or Yu Hui Zhang Kaiwan is greater than that of a girl like Zhang Ziyu. It just so happens that the only one injured by the little guy is Zhang Ziyu. Should I say this girl is unlucky, or... There was another possibility that he didn't want to think about. Before Zhang Ziyu came over, He had already extracted the footage of Zhang Ziyu and Zai Zai getting along with each other that day and watched it from beginning to end, and found nothing unusual. But there is no abnormality, and it does not mean that nothing happened. As a star who lives under the camera almost every day, he is very skillful in using some small movements to block the camera. No matter what they are thinking in their hearts at the moment, both of them must look good. Thank you for your hard work these days, Teacher Zhang. It was me who caused trouble for the program team, and they even asked the helicopter that was supposed to pick up the guests to come back and send me back. You also know the importance of face to our artists. Li Shuo nodded with understanding and glanced sideways at the men beside him. Soon, the luggage and mobile phone that he had been forced to hand over before entering the jungle returned to Zhang Ziyu's hands. Teacher Zhang, please check if there are any missing items. Zhang Ziyu turned on and off his mobile phone for several days, but it was stuck for a while as soon as he turned it on. Finally entered the normal interface, and a large amount of information came flooding in. To her surprise, Zhang Yuding has been sending them to her in the past 10 days or so. Without enough time to read the content of the message, Zhang Ziyu turned off the screen and looked at the suitcase with a combination lock, and nodded, "No problem. That's good, there will be a car to take Teacher Zhang to the nearest airport from here, so I won't keep you longer." Zhang Ziyu vaguely noticed that Li Shuo's tone was a little cold towards her, and couldn't help but feel a little flustered. He thought about it carefully to make sure that he had definitely not exposed anything in front of the camera. Then he calmed down a little and replied with a smile, "Li Shuo, just let the director and you go and do your work." According to the original plan, the helicopter rented by the program team would take the guests out of their destination in the jungle after the filming of the program was completed, and then drive all the way to the nearest airport. But now Zhang Ziyu was the only one left, so naturally he couldn't afford a helicopter trip to send her off. Fortunately, the car that Qi Chen and his entourage came over overnight was idle at the moment, so Li Shuo borrowed it with Qi Chen's permission. The car stopped in front of him. When Zhang Ziyu reached out to open the door, he scanned the official sticker of QY City Rare Animal Protection and Management Office on the car and paused. Then he looked away and bent down to sit in. Waiting for the car to start, she clicked on Zhang Yuding's profile picture. Before she could scroll up to see the first unread message, the other party's video invitation came through. After glancing at the driver in front of him who was concentrating on driving, Zhang Ziyu pursed his lips and clicked to answer, then turned down the volume presciently. Sure enough, a loud voice came directly from the phone's microphone, "Zhang Ziyu, you were just scratched by a panda cub, and you dare to give up. Do you know how much loss we will suffer by doing this? How disappointed will the fans who went to watch the show watch you be the first to give up? The filming is about to be finished, and I said you can't bear it. You're going to me off. You know, I'm giving it to you now. I'm trying to get a role in a big production. If you do this, your impression of you will be greatly diminished. Just try to hold me back." Zhang Ziyu can't hear the word holding back right now. When she was filming in the jungle before, even if the others didn't say anything, she could feel from their other actions that she was the one holding them back. Especially after forming a team again, with Zhang Lingzi as a comparison, she seemed to be worthless. Choosing to hurt the little panda cub certainly had the purpose of destroying Zhang Lingzi, but it was also venting. She was really fed up with feeling like other people were unconsciously treating her as a burden. Hearing Zhang Yuding say that she was holding back, Zhang Ziyu couldn't help but interrupt directly, "Stop talking, the situation is very complicated. Do you think I just want to quit the show now?" Zhang Yuding was heartbroken and took a deep breath, "Then tell me, how complicated is the situation? As for the injury on your face, it will probably be healed before you get home. Others believe you or I quit because I was worried that the wound would leave scars. Don't talk to me about this, I don't believe it." Zhang Ziyu closed his eyes. That's the bad thing about letting Zhang Yuding be her agent. The two grew up together, and each knew the other's temperament from childhood to adulthood. She could pretend to make everyone think that she was the same as she is now, but Zhang Yuding understood her. If I hadn't taken advantage of my aunt's favor. Zhang Ziyu resisted the urge to hang up and clenched her fists, gritted her teeth and replied in a low voice, "It's because of Zhang Lingzi, okay. You've also watched the live broadcast, and you should also be able to see how much she has changed. I'm here this time. If she doesn't get anything good, what's the point of staying?" Zhang Yuding paused and suddenly laughed. Zhang Ziyu heard this and felt confused. "Why are you laughing? Don't distract me from the point. Zhang Lingzi has indeed changed a lot on this show, but you don't need to quit now, unless you think something bad will definitely happen if you stay on, and there are still people targeting you. That kind of thing. I grew up with you. Is this kind of thing rare? Wait, let me guess." Being guessed again, Zhang Ziyu turned to look out the window and was about to throw her phone in when she heard the voice she least wanted to hear echoing in her ears. The panda cub that Zhang Lingzi rescued from the belly of the big snake was suddenly injured accidentally today. Tell me honestly, was it you? Zhang Ziyu pursed his lips and did not speak. She will be riding in the car provided by the program crew. Whether she admits it or not should not be discussed in this car. Zhang Yuding only heard the sound of the car driving over there, and Zhang Ziyu's silence at the moment, and couldn't help but take a breath. "It's really you. Zhang Ziyu, you are really there. You even dare to touch the national treasure. You are getting more and more courageous. I would say I was forced to do this. Do you think I will believe it?" End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 83. Chapter 83. Sister Zixi can handle this person. Zhang Ziyu never thought that she would be forced by Zhang Lingzi to do such a crazy thing, but she has no regrets. "I just regret that I failed to successfully plot against Zhang Lingzi, and instead made myself quit the show." Thinking of this, her voice became a little bored. "Let's talk about it after I get back." Zhang Yuding heard it and suddenly felt a little frightened. As Zhang Ziyu's agent and Zhang Ziyu's cousin, no matter her status, she is enough to control Zhang Ziyu. When the two of them disagreed, it was common for her to choke on Zhang Eleven's words. But in fact, she really didn't dare to really offend Zhang Ziyu. If my cousin is really crazy, she will not even spare her own people. When he spoke again, his voice became much weaker. Okay, Xiao Tao has already taken the fastest flight to pick you up. When you come back and have a good rest for a few days, I will make an appointment for you to receive the ultimate care." Zhang Ziyu snorted lightly. "I'm done." After hanging up the phone, she was no longer in the mood to look at the unread messages and her account homepage. She leaned her head back on the chair and closed her eyes tiredly. Hence, she didn't notice that the program driver sitting in the driver's seat glanced at her through the rear-view mirror. The driver is a veteran. As luck would have it, his ears are very sensitive. Asterisk. Zhang Kaiwen walked up to Yu Huiwei, who was keeping vigil, and reached out to pat him on the shoulder. "Hey, why are you so dazed? The firewood is about to burn your fingers." Yu Hui came to his senses after being photographed. He quickly retracted his fingertips that had been roasted slightly yellow by the flames, coughed lightly and said, "I thought about something." Zhang Kaiwen didn't feel sleepy at all. In fact, what happened during the day was so shocking even for a person as strong as his nerves. He even felt like his worldview had been forced to be reshaped, so he turned around and sat down. "What are you thinking about? Is it convenient to talk about it?" Facing Yu's looking back, he shrugged. "It just so happens that I'm not sleepy either, so we won't be bored if we chat." Yu Hui opened his mouth, hesitated for a moment, and then looked at the camera facing him. Zhang Kaiwen immediately understood. He wanted to say it, but he was afraid it would be broadcast live. This is easy to handle. He motioned to the photographer to take a picture of Zay, who was in high spirits after being carried on the road for a day. After the camera moved away, he turned off the loudspeaker attached to his clothes again, and raised his eyebrows to indicate that Yu Hui could speak. Yu Hui imitated him and turned off his own loudspeaker. After thinking about the words again and again, he finally said in his heart, "What kind of person does Teacher Zhang think Teacher Zhang is?" "Teacher Zhang, which teacher are you talking about? Sister Zixi or the one who left? Gone?" Zhang Kaiwen's expression paused, and then he pulled his lips and smiled. "Why do you suddenly ask about this?" "I just think," Yu Hui laughed self-deprecatingly, "my eyesight seems to be quite bad." "Forget it, let's not talk about it. It's not a good idea to discuss others like this." Zhang Kaiwen added a few logs to the fire in front of him, and under the cover of the beeping sound of the flames, he whispered, "Even if you ask me, I don't know how to answer you. After all, women are two complicated creatures. But I have only one piece of advice for Zhang Ziyu: stay away." "Then, where is the other teacher Zhang?" This time Zhang Kaiwen nodded without hesitation. "Sister Zixi, you can handle it." Comparing the answers before and after, the gap is really huge. Zhang Kaiwen used the firelight to see the speechless look on Yu Hui's face. "What's your expression?" "It's been 2 days since we formed the team. Sister Zixi can hunt for food with Brother Su during the day, and also at night. If you can keep vigil like us, you are no worse than us, don't you see?" Yu Hui hurriedly raised his hands to beg for mercy. I saw it, he took a breath and said with some emotion, "It's really powerful. It's very powerful. Before this, I have never seen a girl as strong and unique as Sister Zixi. She is good at archery and fishing. In short, she is good at everything." Yu Hui looked at Zhang Kaiwen, who suddenly turned into Zhang Lingzi's little fanboy, could only nod his head to correct and echoed, "Yes, yes, it's amazing." After Zhang Kaiwen stood up and walked away, Yu Hui sat there and looked at the fire in front of him, lost in thought again. Zhang Kaiwen advised him to stay away from Zhang Ziyu. When he said this, he didn't seem to just think that women were troublesome. Is it possible that Zhang Kaiwen also noticed something? It's just that it involves some sensitive topics, so it's not stated clearly. He followed the direction of the camera and looked at the furry figure that was moving around Zhang Lingzi. The little guy seemed to have completely forgotten the suffering he suffered during the day, and only focused on being with the human being he trusted most. But as a human being, he could not forget it for a while. He even thought of the little rabbit that was fed to death a few days ago. "I didn't think much about it before, but now I think about it, if Zhang Ziyu really likes small animals so much, wouldn't he have thought about how much food a small rabbit can eat when he was feeding the rabbit? Just touch the belly of the small rabbit, you should know when enough is enough, and not just enjoy the feeding process to the point where the little rabbit is strangled to death. Later, I couldn't hold back my hunger and ate the rabbit meat. If I really liked it, would I eat it? It's a pity that at that time, it was as if the bright halo of the goddess in my mind had blinded all my perceptions. Even if I had doubts, I still persuaded myself to believe what the other person said. But now, he really doesn't know what to think of that still beautiful face. Perhaps Zhang Kaiwen is right, stay away, don't blindly chase stars, and don't think too good of people. Sometimes the greater the hope, the greater the disappointment." Zhang Kaiwen tiptoed to the side of the panda cub. He had just squatted down to touch the little guy before sleeping, when he raised his head and met Zhang Lingzi's eyes. Clear and energetic, not at all like a person who has just woken up. After getting along with him for so many days, Zhang Kaiwen has seen how light a person's sleep can be, and he can detect even the sound of a branch breaking. "Sorry, Sister Zixi, I woke you up." Zhang Lingzi stretched her somewhat stiff back and said, "I woke up when you talked to me." "Ah, Zhang Kaiwen simply picked up the little guy and sat down cross-legged in front of Zhang Lingzi. Sister Zixi, you should have heard what I said to Yu Hui, right? Why do you think Yu Hui suddenly asked me that question? It means he is not stupid enough. Zhang Kaiwen, okay, so sharp. So, what about me? Zhang Lingzi thought for a while and said in a pertinent tone, you are a little smarter than him. Perhaps it should be called a sharper intuition. However, seeing Zhang Kaiwen's eyes suddenly light up after hearing that he was better than Yu Hui, Zhang Lingzi still swallowed the last sentence. I also heard you praising me for being awesome. Ah, me, my. That's a good compliment, I like hearing it. End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 84. Chapter 84 is closed. Zhang Kaiwen returned to his resting place in a daze, feeling that the compliment from Zhang Lingzi was still echoing in his mind. Say that he praised well, does this encourage him to continue to praise no matter what? How should I put it? It's a bit cute. He seemed to have discovered another side of Zhang Lingzi besides being calm and strong. I couldn't help laughing as I thought about it. Su Zhao was awakened by his smile. What kind of sweet dream is this? I'm sorry, Brother Su, I woke you up. I just suddenly thought of something interesting, so please go back to sleep. Inexplicably, Zhang Kaiwen didn't want to share his discovery this time. Asterisk. The airport is still brightly lit late at night. But probably because this is just a small airport, there are not many passengers coming and going. Zhang Ziyu was woken up by the driver in front of him. He turned to look out the window and realized that he had arrived at the airport. I was going to dig out the mask from my bag and put it on before getting out of the car, but I couldn't find it. After all, in the past, you only needed to ask Assistant Xiao Tao for this kind of thing, so why did she need it? Driver, do you have a mask? No. The stiff response made Zhang Ziyu frown. Can I make a phone call in the car first? I don't know if that girl Xiao Tao has arrived. Ms. Zhang, this is someone else's car. Our program team is just borrowing it. I have to rush back and return the car as soon as possible. If you are worried that other passengers will recognize you without a mask, I don't think it is necessary. Such a small, not many people at the local airport probably know you. Besides, your appearance now is quite different from when you first came here to film the show. No one would regard you as a star. He was answered with a loud sound of the car door closing. Zhang Ziyu stood beside the car and his chest heaved violently several times, but he still couldn't swallow the breath. After getting out of the car, the driver took out the luggage from the trunk and put it in front of Zhang Ziyu. He also checked the door that had just been slammed, and then returned to the cab and started the car directly. Zhang Ziyu watched helplessly as the little broken car left her with a cloud of exhaust fumes and then sped away. Her eyesight went dark and she almost fainted from anger. Just as her cell phone rang, she looked at the caller ID and answered the call. Before the person on the other end could speak, she immediately typed out, "Where did you die and you just called me now? Do you know that it's so late at night, I'm the only one on the roadside. If you didn't want to do it anymore, you should have told me earlier." In the airport, a girl who was talking on her mobile phone suddenly started running in the crowd. People nearby could hear her running and apologizing to the person on the other side of the phone in a low voice. "I'm sorry, Miss Xiao, I just got off the plane. Now tell me your location and I will come find you. I don't know where this is. The driver left me and left. I'm standing on the side of the road right now. There's a street light and a sign next to me." "Then what's the content of the sign?" Zhang Ziyu looked up and couldn't help but bite his back teeth after seeing clearly what was displayed on the sign. She didn't see what kind of advertisement it was, but she could never mistake the face on the screen. Zhang Lingzi. "Ah, Sister Xiao, what were you saying just now? There was a little noise next to me and I couldn't hear you clearly." "I said Zhang Lingzi, The person on the sign is Zhang Lingzi. Can you hear me clearly now? I heard it Sister Xiao, just stand there and don't move, I'll go find you right now. Zhang Ziyu hung up the phone and couldn't help but look up at the advertising screen above his head. After looking at it for a while, he realized that this was not a commercial advertisement at all, but a public welfare video to promote backward areas. Sneaked lightly, sure enough, this shabby place is just like people, poor. After finishing speaking, a somewhat surprised voice came from behind, Zhang Ziyu. She subconsciously looked back and saw several teenagers and girls carrying backpacks who looked like college students standing in front of her. "Ah, I am Zhang Ziyu," said, flipping up his hair, "are you my fans? Do you want to?" Before I could say the word signature, I was interrupted by a short-haired girl who was walking in the front and seemed to be the leader. "No, but I was indeed a fan of yours before, but unfortunately," the girl pointing to the advertising screen above, "the poor and miserable place you just mentioned happens to be my mother's hometown, and we just came back from traveling there. It's beautiful there, just as beautiful as in the promotional video. I believe it's only a temporary poverty." "Yes. Sorry, Zhang Ziyu, I have to lock you down." Zhang Ziyu's face suddenly turned blue. Watching the group of college students leave, she couldn't help but kick the suitcase next to her, and quickly turned on her phone to open her account homepage. When I saw the number of fans displayed on the screen, I couldn't help but exclaimed, "How come there are so many fans?" She hurriedly scrolled down, clicked on the latest update, and looked at the comments displayed below. How should I put it? I feel a little bit disillusioned. In the past, you were gentle but also strong, and you took your work seriously. But this time in wilderness survival, your performance was not as good as that of amateurs and newcomers. You used to treat every job. Where is the serious attitude towards work? I just have a little skin on my face, do I have to quit? It's okay that I didn't perform well before, but this time I really can't understand it. I stayed in the live broadcast room day and night without sleep, but I didn't wait until you took the initiative. Give up. Forget it, I'm tired too. I've always heard people say that variety shows like Wilderness Survival are like a magic mirror for celebrities. I still don't believe it. I think you are definitely not like that. Well, this time I'm slapping myself in the face. Goodbye. Looking at the densely packed comments on her phone, coupled with the fact that those college students just cancelled their attention on her in front of her, Zhang Ziyu felt that she could really faint now. So when Xiao Tao finally ran to Zhang Ziyu, she was faced with a volcano that was about to erupt. "Look at what time it is now. I've been waiting for you for half an hour. Are you a dead pig? You run so slowly and don't know how to lose weight when you have nothing to do. I'm angry when you see you like this." See Xiao Tao when he came to pull the suitcase, Zhang Ziyu waved his hand, "First wipe off the sweat on your hands and face. Do you understand that the stench of your sweat is smelling to me?" When Xiao Tao found a tissue and wiped her hands and face clean, Zhang Ziyu felt even more angry when he saw that she was getting hit and scolded without saying a word, so he simply raised his hand and slapped her in the face. "Why are you so disgusting?" Xiao Tao licked the slapped cheek with the tip of her tongue. She was already numb to the burning pain coming from her nerves. She knew in her heart that Zhang Ziyu was just using her to beat and scold another person. This is not the first time anyway. After Zhang Ziyu finished venting, she asked, "Sister Xiao, do you want to book a flight back to the imperial capital now, or stay here for one night and rest before leaving? What kind of place is there to live in this wretched place?" "I don't have anything I want." Zhang Ziyu waved his hand, took the mask from Xiao Tao and put it on. He wanted to say go back to the imperial capital, but suddenly thought of the recent troubles. He quickly changed his mind. He ordered, "Wait a minute, don't go back to the imperial capital yet. Book 2 tickets to my aunt's place. I want the fastest one." Zhang Lingzi's change made her a little panicked. She had to ask her aunt what was going on. End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, X. Press 11. Chapter 85. Chapter 85. Well done. Zhang Lingzi naturally felt Yu Hui's change. However, whether the other party has changed or not, it has no impact on her. She never cared much about what others thought of her. In her previous life, after she ascended the throne, she conquered a number of surrounding small countries and conscripted troops for 3 consecutive years. I don't know how many people secretly scolded her for being so happy with her success, but did she listen? Expanding nearly 1/3 of the country's land area is the answer. Not to mention that he is just a young man in the peaceful era. As long as he doesn't dance in front of her, the other person is no different from a piece of grass brushing by her hand. It wasn't until Yu Hui followed Zhang Kaiwen and started calling her Sister Zixi that Zhang Lingzi calmly corrected him. Sister Zixi is too close, you should call me Teacher Zhang or Miss Zhang. It's more comfortable to listen to. She did not say this behind the camera, but said it to Yu Hui right under the camera. Yu Hui mustered up the courage to shout out. After hearing this rude rejection, his face suddenly turned red. He wanted to ask why Zhang Kaiwen could call him but not him. We were all strangers before, but when he raised his head and met the condescending look of Zhang Lingzi standing on the stone, the embarrassment and anger in his heart felt like a basin of ice water was poured on Dotio Yu, and it dissipated instantly. Those eyes seemed to be able to penetrate into the deepest part of his heart and see him from the inside out. At this moment, he even doubted whether Zhang Lingzi had known about his previous slander against her. Yu Hui was still in a daze, but Zhang Lingzi had already jumped down with Zai, who had quietly climbed up the stone. When she was about to pass by Yu Hui, she heard a soft voice coming from her side, "I'm sorry." Zhang Lingzi paused for a moment, then left straight away. She never forgives much. Yu Hui listened to the footsteps gradually walking away behind him, covered his face slumped, and gave a helpless smile. Looking at him like this, a question mark quietly appeared on the barrage in the live broadcast room. Why does this make me feel like there is a story between Zhang Lingzi and Yu Hui? Isn't Zhang Lingzi a little too indifferent? She said it in front of the camera, and she was too ungrateful to save face. Yu Hui seemed to have said something when they passed each other, but his voice was too low and I couldn't hear it clearly through the loudspeaker. Is there anyone who knows lip reading? It seems to be saying sorry, the lip movement is too light, I'm not sure, it's just a wild guess, haha. If you really say I'm sorry, then there is definitely something going on between these two people. But at the beginning of the show, these two people didn't seem to know each other at all, and Yu Hui took the initiative to team up with Zhang Ziyu. Is it possible that a variety show needs to have another stand-in for the prodigal son turning back? Zhang Lingzi is totally careless. Well done, Sister Zixi is so beautiful. You can call me Sister Zixi. Hey, I can really scream, just envy me. Although spring is still not the season for eating ice cream, Lu Zhenzhen's mood at the moment is as if she had just eaten a big bucket of ice cream, which is so refreshing. She still remembers how bad Yu Hui was towards Sister Zixi at the beginning. Now she is slapped in the face and regrets it, ha ha ha. I won't forgive you. Sister Zixi did a great job. But there is another person who feels exactly the opposite. The overnight plane landed in a beautiful seaside town. When Zhang Ziyu took the car to his aunt's residence, he couldn't help but click on the live broadcast room of Wilderness Survival. He wanted to see what the audience in the live broadcast room said about other guests, but it turned out that just now when I opened it, I saw the scene where Yu Hui showed his favor to Zhang Lingzi. He had never looked so sincere and humble even when he was in front of her. She almost broke her silver teeth when she saw it. Just when she was so angry that she was about to throw her phone out, Xiao Dao and Jishao sitting nearby quickly closed the live broadcast room. What are you doing? Sister Xiao, we are almost there. By the way, do you have the latest photos of that person? I will show them to my aunt later. Xiao Tao knew that she was asking Zhang Lingzi, and shook her head in embarrassment. She hasn't posted any selfies recently. Before Zhang Ziyu became irritable again, Xiao Tao quickly pointed to her phone. Although there are no photos, it should be okay to see the people in the live broadcast room. Jiangzi language. She had no choice but to endure her depression and open the live broadcast room again. Asterisk. Zhang Kaiwen took the zai from Zhang Lingzi and hesitated to speak. Zhang Lingzi frowned upon seeing this. Just say what you want to say, why are you getting more and more annoying? That's right, Sister Zixi, don't you like Yu Hui? Zhang Kaiwen. Although I admit it, can you please say a few more words? He couldn't help but be curious and continued to ask, why? Now I find that Yu Hui is quite easy to get along with. Although he is a bit stupid and not as smart as me, he works hard and is not lazy. As for his appearance, he is not bad. Zhang Lingzi, who could be kind to him and brother Su, was the only one who was unpretentious towards Hui, and her attitude was almost the same as that of Zhang Ziyu, who had already left. But Zhang Ziyu is a rival, and the relationship between the two in the industry has never been good. Yu Hui is a new person. Where did the old grudge between the two come from? If you don't like it, you just don't like it. How can there be so many reasons? Zhang Lingzi said as she brushed away Zhang Kaiwen who was blocking her. Someone is coming. Su Zhao went hunting alone today. Without one person in the team, the corresponding food demand was reduced by a quarter. In addition, the uneaten meat from the previous hunting was roasted into jerky. Now their team also there is no shortage of food. As the only girl in the current team, Zhang Lingzi was given a day off. She lay down happily. It was a rare day off and I was too lazy to respond to Yu Hui's overtures and Zhang Kaiwen's many questions. Why not just let her and Zai Zai enjoy the sun comfortably? Zhang Kaiwen turned around and followed Zhang Lingzi's line of sight, and saw that in addition to Su Zhao walking towards him, there was also a figure often seen in military movies and TV series. Teacher Lin. Lin Jing smiled and waved. I finally met you all after a few days. I met Su Zhao when I was resting. I heard Su Zhao said that Miss Zhang had rescued a panda cub. I couldn't help but be curious, so I came over to take a look. Welcome, Zhang Kaiwen said, hugging Zai Zai and walking towards him. Teacher Lin, look, this little guy is cute, isn't he? Lin Jing stretched out his hand and touched the little guy's head gently, and nodded. It is indeed so cute that you can't put it down. But what happened to the sole of the foot? It was fixed with branches. Is it injured? Zhang Kaiwen subconsciously looked back at Zhang Lingzi. After getting a particularly bland and calm look, he turned his head back and nodded stiffly. Yes, that's right. Poor little guy, Lin Jing said, reaching out and touching the injured part of the little guy, and nodded. Well, the reset is pretty good. I didn't expect you, Su Zhao, to be able to do this. Not bad, not bad. Su Zhao hurriedly waved his hands. It's not me, it's Zhang Lingzi. It's okay to let me hunt and cook, but I really don't know anything about orthopedics. Lin Jing paused and looked up at the figure standing quietly to one side. Zhang Lingzi met Lin Jing's gaze and nodded slightly. Teacher Lin. Lin Jing weighed the Zai Zai that Zhang Kaiwen handed to him. Thanks to you for this little guy. Just as Zhang Lingzi was about to speak, she suddenly noticed a peeping look. The sudden sticky feeling made her almost immediately on guard. Lin Jing felt that the person in front of him suddenly changed from a harmless clear spring into a sword sharp enough to cut people. Thousands of miles away, a shrill scream suddenly came from a small elegant light blue villa located on the seaside. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 86. Chapter 86 Peeping and Backlash. The sudden turn of events frightened Zhang Ziyu, who was waiting anxiously at the side. In her impression since childhood, her eldest aunt has always been mysterious and scary, especially those eyes that can make her scalp tingle even when she casually looks over. But at this moment, the originally intimidating eyes of the eldest aunt in front of me were filled with a lot of red bloodshot eyes due to congestion, and a trace of dark red and black blood slowly flowed out from the corner of her mouth. Her whole body was even more radiant than when they first met. In this state, it seems like I am more than 10 years older. And the waterfall-like black hair that she envied every time she saw it, also quietly grew a lot of white hair. These changes all happened in an instant, which was what frightened her the most. Is this really a phenomenon that occurs in normal people? Zhang Ziyu felt that his mind went blank. He wanted to speak and opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Xiao Tao was still squatting next to her and helping to hold the phone. Although her arms and legs were trembling with fear, she was still calm. Sister Xiao, do you want to call an ambulance? Zhang Ziyu resisted the urge to turn around and rush out the door to escape from the small villa. Although the aunt's situation didn't look very good at the moment, she was still afraid of him in her heart. Although she wanted to leave the person behind, she didn't dare. Just as he was about to nod, a cough came from in front of him. No need. Mei Shuiqing wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, sat up reluctantly, and spoke in a hoarse voice, "Go, there is a bottle of drink with a black label in the refrigerator in the kitchen, bring it to me." Seeing her pointing at him, Zhang Ziyu had to get up from his kneeling position and followed the instructions to find a drink in a transparent plastic bottle from the refrigerator. However, after seeing the bright red and somewhat viscous liquid in the bottle, she resisted the urge to secretly open it and smell it, then turned back and handed it to her aunt. When the other party's fingers were trembling to unscrew the bottle cap, he still couldn't help but ask, "Auntie, what kind of drink are you drinking? Used to replenish physical strength. This color is so red." Mei Shuiqing raised her head and took a sip, feeling that the pain of her brain cracking was slightly relieved. She glanced at her little niece in front of her with a half smile. "The raw materials are blended with tomato juice, and of course they are red." "That's it?" Zhang Ziyu nodded in sudden realization, but only she knew what she was thinking. The uncle and nephew tacitly ignored the topic. Then Zhang Ziyu watched helplessly as the aunt in front of him finished drinking the bottle of drink, and her face recovered a lot at a speed visible to the naked eye. The lips were stained as red as blood by the drink, making them alluring. She looked away without leaving a trace. "Auntie, what happened to you just now?" Mei Shuiqing licked the remaining drink on her lips. From the corner of her lowered eyes, she glanced at a few strands of white hair hanging down her shoulders, and her eyes became a little more sinister. She is usually very fond of her long hair, but she didn't expect. This time, she was indeed badly hit. "I'm afraid Zhang Lingzi was wearing something that actually blocked my prying eyes. I was unprepared for a moment and actually let that thing hurt me," Mei Shuiqing said, her eyes falling on her little niece's face. "You guys, we were filming a show together before, but did you see anything unusual on her body?" Zhang Ziyu quickly frowned and thought hard. After a while, he frowned and shook his head. "She changed all her clothes before we filmed the show. She didn't seem to be wearing any accessories. Then we met in the jungle and everyone was covered up. I really couldn't see her." Mei Shuiqing's eyes suddenly looked a little more disgusted. Her little niece was so useless. There was a bit of coldness in her voice. "I want to know what she is wearing. Only by taking that thing off can I help you. You said that things have not been going well for you recently, and it is probably because of that thing." Zhang Ziyu suddenly became more nervous when he heard that it was related to him. "Auntie, can you tell me what it is?" "Ancient jade that has been around for thousands of years and has generated spiritual energy, Buddhist beads and amulets personally blessed by eminent monks, or..." Mei Shuiqing paused as she spoke. "In short, as long as you feel that there is something about Zhang Lingzi that makes you feel very uncomfortable, that thing didn't run away." Zhang Ziyu opened her mouth, wanting to say that Zhang Lingzi's whole person made her very uncomfortable, but she didn't dare to say it. In the end, she just nodded obediently. I understand, Auntie. Okay, let's go. Don't disturb me until you find that thing. I'm going into seclusion. After kicking the two people out of her villa, Mei Shuiqing stumbled into the basement of her villa while holding onto the wall. Unable to hold on, Mei Shuiqing spat out blood that was so red that it turned black again. Clenched his teeth and read out a name, Zhang Lingzi. Poof. Asterisk. Although the sight that made her feel sticky and disgusting passed away fleetingly, Zhang Lingzi did not relax her vigilance. The emperor is most afraid of being spied on by others. In the previous life, anyone who dared to spy on her would be killed regardless of the reason. Although this method is not allowed in this life, there are other solutions. The prerequisite is to find out the person who is hiding in the dark and watching her. The guests of the program team and the accompanying photographers can be excluded, so the only people who can see her are the people who can see her in the live broadcast room. In her last life, she had seen with her own eyes that some outsiders could calculate many things based on a person's recent portrait or clothes. It makes no sense that after 1,000 years, such people would disappear. In her previous life, she and those people had always been on the same page, and no one dared to judge her anyway, unless they didn't want to live anymore. I just didn't expect that in this life, or should I say my original self, might be targeted by such a person. And the kind with malicious intentions. It's just that the soul of this body is now hers. Although the sight just now made her feel sick and a little uncomfortable, the other party probably didn't gain anything. At this time, he might have secretly treated the wounds that were caused by the backlash. Even if the peak fails, the other party will probably not be able to guess that this Zhang Lingzi is no longer the other Zhang Lingzi. As long as that person still has plans in mind, he will definitely not be able to help but take action again. It seems like she just needs to wait patiently. Thinking of this, Zhang Lingzi felt relieved, put the matter behind her, and reached out to take the little guy who was trying hard to get into her arms. Rather than racking her brains to think about the suspect, she might as well zizay before he leaves her. After being kicked out of the villa, Zhang Ziyu could only hold his nose and open the Wilderness Survival live broadcast room in order to quickly find out if there was anything on Zhang Lingzi that made him feel uncomfortable. Looking at the person in the live broadcast room who was fondling the panda cub with an expression of enjoyment, she was so depressed that she almost spat out a mouthful of blood. What is the eldest aunt talking about? End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 87. Chapter 87. Goodbye, little one. Zhang Ziyu left with the front foot, and Lin Jing joined with the back foot. The team was still composed of 5 people. But the atmosphere was much better than when Zhang Ziyu was here. Among them, Lin Jing is much higher than others in terms of social status and status in the entertainment industry. But after getting along with this senior, you can find that his temperament and cultivation are really good. Yu Hui felt the most profound. Although he is a rich young man, he is a new person in this circle. Even Su Zhao's experience is similar to that of Lin Jing. Both of them served as soldiers. But even when it comes to treating a newcomer like him, Senior Lin Jing's attitude towards him is no different from other people. He can feel that he is respected only because of who he is, rather than because he thinks he is useful, so he talks nicely to him. Say. In addition, Zhang Kaiwen, who is outspoken and lively and will take the initiative to chat with him when he thinks he is lonely, Su Zhao, who is taciturn but capable, and Zhang Lingzi, who is not hypocritical to him but is so powerful that people feel safe. The journey to survive is still very tiring, and everyone is running around looking for water and food every day. The road to survival is also filled with dangers, including venomous snakes and insects that are difficult to guard against, as well as various terrain traps covered by grass or shrubs. but the body is tired, but the mind is relaxed. There will be difficulties on the road ahead, just get through it together. Not only the guests felt this way, but the audience squatting in the live broadcast room also felt the atmosphere conveyed by the new team. I don't know if it's my imagination, but I left Zhangziu and came to Senior Linjing's survival team. I felt more comfortable. The current atmosphere of the team is indeed very good. Although Zhang Lingzi is the only girl in the team, her performance is not unreasonable at all, and can even be said to be amazing. I finally understand why the whole team seems a little awkward when Zhangziu is here. Everyone is working very actively. Those with strong abilities will do the more difficult ones, and those with less abilities will take the initiative to do what they can. There is only one Zhangziu. Yu Hui worked hard for her before, but after joining the team again, he did the easiest job. After finishing the work, he didn't know what to do, and he was passive and passive. She and Zhang Lingzi were just two girls. I just compared them based on what was said above. It's better not to compare. Their performances are no longer on the same level. When people quit, stop pulling and stepping on them. Actually, I want to say that if you exit well, you are fairly self-aware. I announce that I have lost my fan of Zhang Ziyu, and, I have turned my fan of Zhang Lingzi into a fan. Gee, my sister is quite sassy. I didn't think so before, but now I find that I quite like this kind of cool type. How can I put it? It's very touching. Although the two people look a bit similar, I feel that Zhang Ziyu's personality is too thin, and he is not as vivid and present as Zhang Lingzi. Zhang Ziyu's gentle little fairy character started to collapse in my heart when she ate the meat of the rabbit she wanted to raise, and then, continued to collapse. The car was driving on the way to the airport. Xiao Tao was lowering her head to reply to the message Zhang Yuding had sent asking why they hadn't arrived at the imperial capital yet, when she heard the sound of crunching teeth coming from the side. Turning his head to look to his side, he saw Zhang Ziyu looking at the phone screen in front of him with a twisted look on his face, his eyes about to burst into flames. She quietly turned her body and saw the barrage displayed on the screen of her mobile phone. After reading a few of them, she immediately understood why Zhang Ziyu was so angry. Although she is Zhang Ziyu's assistant, to be fair, she actually admires Zhang Lingzi more on this show. Just like what was said on the barrage, who could not love this kind of sister who is beautiful, cool, and very capable, making people feel extra safe. If Zhang Lingzi had such a personality in private, then she would really envy Zhang Lingzi's assistant. What are you looking at? The flesh on both sides of Xiao Tao's cheeks trembled uncontrollably, and she quickly looked away. No, I didn't see anything. Zhang Ziyu looked at her and sneered, are you envious because you think someone is quite good? Stupid pig, in this circle, everyone is the same as before and after, no one is exception. I gave you food and drink and paid for your mother's medical expenses. What's wrong with me scolding you and hitting you? Go ask that person and see if they want you. Xiao Tao wanted to say that she was able to become this assistant because she was arranged by Master Mei. After a few cowardly words, she still didn't dare to say it. I didn't. Humph, I'm sorry you don't dare to have such thoughts. Asterisk. Zhang Lingzi didn't know that Zhang Ziyu was still being forced to rage against her incompetence in the live broadcast room even after quitting. When there was only one day left before the official completion of filming for the show, she was the first to notice the people catching up behind her. The follow-up photographer, who had always been able to disrupt the filming of the program by keeping his mouth shut as much as possible, then stood up and explained, it's the staff from the nearby Rare Animal Protection and Management Office. After a pause, they're here to take away the cub. After the words fell, the team of 5 people all cast their sharp eyes over. The photographer who spoke couldn't help wiping the cold sweat from his forehead, and continued under pressure. Director Li said that he originally planned to wait until the filming of the program was over before letting these people take Zizai away, but he was more worried over there. Zizai, so I was a little anxious and chased him in. Zhang Kaiwen curled his lips and almost cried, but Zizai is doing well, we have taken good care of him. Then why is the sole of its foot broken? Several people emerged from the bushes, and the one who spoke formally stood at the front. His hair is gray and dusty, and he looks like someone who has been chasing him all the way. That's because. Halfway through his words, Zhang Kaiwen quickly fell silent. He originally wanted to say that Zhang Ziyu maliciously hurt Zizai, but the meeting was still being broadcast, and they had no evidence that Zhang Ziyu hurt Zizai. In front of the tens of millions of viewers watching in the live broadcast room, he must be responsible for every word he says. Thinking of this, I could only swallow my words in frustration. After silencing Zhang Kaiwen with one sentence, Qi Chen walked directly to Zhang Lingzi, who was holding Zizai. Can I see Zizai? Zhang Lingzi lowered her head and looked at the little guy who was dozing lazily in her arms. When Qi Chen stretched out his hand, he probably noticed that the person had the same kind of aura on him. The little guy didn't avoid it. He just rolled around, and naturally he rolled into Qi Chen's arms. Qi Chen immediately checked the little guy's injured foot, and then skillfully and carefully touched other parts. Only then did he finally put down his worries and looked up at the man who was standing quietly opposite and watching his actions. Girl, Ms. Zhang, this is Qi Chen. Thank you for rescuing a wild panda cub. Our Rare Animal Protection and Management Office will give you a corresponding commendation later. Zhang Lingzi reacted lightly to Qi Chen's commendation, but she had a question: how will you place it in the future? Qi Chen replied without hesitation, let's see if we can find Zizai's relatives first. If we can find him, we will naturally wait for him to recover from his injuries and then release him into the wild. If we can't find him, Zizai should be sent to the panda breeding base. By the way, it will grow up with other infant babies, and it will have many children by then. That's good. Zhang Lingzi nodded and touched the little guy's furry ears. Goodbye, little guy. End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 88. Chapter 88. Zizai is missing. I cried to death, thinking that I might never see Zizai again. I feel so uncomfortable that even the roast duck I just ordered and my favorite food no longer tastes good. Why is Zhang Lingzi's reaction so bland? She doesn't feel reluctant to leave Zizai at all, she feels a bit cold-blooded. I just took on the role of Zizai, and when I woke up, I found that my favorite human being was no longer around, replaced by a group of strangers. What kind of B-script is this about being forced to disperse to the ends of the earth and never see each other again? I see that the circles under my brother's eyes are red. If it weren't for the camera, he would have cried. Zhang Lingzi, how could you watch Zizai being taken away with such indifference? Summary: this woman's heart is not generally hard. Watching Qi Chen and his group appear, he quickly hugged Zizai, who was still dozing, and left the same way. Until no one could be seen, Zhang Kaiwen reluctantly withdrew his gaze, sniffed, and looked towards Zhang Lingzi's eyes were filled with confusion and a hint of accusation. Sister Zixi, aren't you reluctant to leave Zizai? How can you send Zizai out so happily? At the very least, you have to say goodbye to Zizai properly. Zhang Lingzi met his eyes and asked, it is destined that Zizai will leave us. Aren't you mentally prepared? I do, but I didn't expect this day to come so quickly, and we only spent so much time together. It won't take long for Zizai to forget about me. Zhang Lingzi couldn't help but feel silent when she saw that he couldn't let go of Zizai. Compared to Zhang Kaiwen and the other three people who also looked at her with reluctance, she seemed to be a little too calm about Zizai's departure. But since Zizai is destined to leave, it's just a matter of a few days earlier and a few days later. She has given her feelings in the past, and she can take them back smoothly later. She doesn't even have this bit of restraint. This is certainly true. After thinking about this, Zhang Lingzi comforted her, unless you can get Zizai back, try to get used to it. Zhang Kaiwen. This comfort is so that he can't even cry now if he wants to. In the small courtyard with white walls and black tiles, Su Xingyuan also felt lost. Why, can we no longer see Zizé behind us? Wei Ke nodded and made a pertinent suggestion at the same time. If you want to see pandas, I can find someone to take you to the zoo closest to here. Su Xingyuan looked up at the sky and resisted the urge to roll his eyes. It was true that pandas were cute, but what he was thinking about now was whether the cub rescued by his beautiful sister was good, and he didn't want to see other pandas. He looked at Wei Ke's plain, unchanged face, a little confused. Wei Ke, are you willing to let go of Zizé? The two of them usually watch live broadcasts together, so it stands to reason that their feelings for Zizé should be about the same. Persons are not allowed to keep pandas. Su Xingyuan was choked by his honest statement. Then he looked at the beautiful sister with the same dull expression in the live broadcast room. Why do I feel that you, Wei Ke, are a bit similar to the beautiful sister? Wei Ke raised his eyebrows. Does it look like it? He is a person who is used to seeing life and death. He has seen many separations between life and death, and has developed a stronger heart than ordinary people. Where does Zhang Lingzi's inner strength come from? Looking at the many comments in the live broadcast room saying that Zhang Lingzi was too cold-blooded in his treatment of Zizé, Zhang Ziyu finally felt a little better. I asked you to change your character and make it concave, but now you're trying too hard. It's time. Xiao Tao was thinking to the side that what Zhang Lingzi said was actually quite right. Those people who said they were cold-blooded on the barrage probably just couldn't accept that Zizé was taken away like this. Once they calmed down, they should be able to understand what Zhang Lingzi said. Nothing wrong. But seeing the happy expression on Zhang Ziyu's face, she quickly lowered her eyelids to hide her thoughts. Sister Xiao, just now Sister Ting sent a message asking you to see her as soon as possible after you return. Did you say anything? She said she was going to take you to meet an important person. It was already planned, but I didn't expect you to decide on the spur of the moment to go to Master May's place. Now you are pressed for time. You have to rush there as soon as you get off the plane. How can I meet people like this now? Didn't we make an appointment to do some maintenance first? Zhang Ziyu said coldly. How important is this person? Why can't we wait a day to see you again? The message was converted into text. Sister Xiao, look, these are Sister Ting's original words. Zhang Ziyu had no choice but to frown and move his eyes from the live broadcast room to the mobile phone next to him. After watching it, his eyes suddenly lit up. He didn't even care about the live broadcast on the other mobile phone. He took the mobile phone in Xiao Tao's hand and started typing. Ask me the best styling team, I'll rush there as soon as I get off the plane. Zhang Yuding replied, you don't need to tell me, we have already made an appointment. Xiao Tao looked at Zhang Ziyu's excited expression and pursed her lips. She didn't dare to say that she accidentally heard from Sister Ting that she had also fallen in love with Zhang Lingzi. I feared it would explode again, and she would be the unlucky one then. Asterisk. The atmosphere in the team is a bit gloomy. Zhang Kaiwen even muttered coldly, it always feels like something is missing. Zhang Lingzi, Zizé is missing. My Zizé has been away for almost 2 hours. He should be awake by now. Is he looking for me? Zhang Lingzi, correction, Zizé is not yours. As for whether she and Zhang Kaiwen will be contacted, maybe they will at first, but it probably won't last long. How good can the memory of small animals be? But this time it was Zhang Lingzi who made a rare miscalculation. Qi Chen and his party were not slow to catch up. After all, they were worried about the little guy's safety and were very anxious. But now that the panda cub has been returned safely, there is no need to be as anxious as when he left. They also plan to stay in the jungle for a few days and return to the place where Zhang Lingzi rescued Zizé to see if they can find the little guy's parents. Unexpectedly, the person responsible for guarding the little guy couldn't help but take a nap because of the fatigue of the past few days. When he opened his eyes again, the little guy who was sleeping soundly in front of him was gone. When the others came back from washing in the nearby creek, they got a bolt from the blue. "What are you doing standing around? Look for it quickly. They haven't been gone for a long time. The little guy is not big, so he probably can't run far." The people immediately dispersed. I thought that it would not take much effort for them to find an eye-catching black and white dumpling, but it often backfired. After searching to no avail, Chi Chen turned back and looked at the students who were also empty-handed. Their faces were much darker. "What? Zai Zai is missing? How did so many of you see it?" Even though it was Chi Chen standing in front of him, Zhang Kaiwen was stunned and couldn't help but question. Chi Chen wiped the sweat from his face and said, "This matter is indeed our negligence. I came here to ask a few people to help us search together. There are more people than strength. Then what are you waiting for? Hurry and look for him." "Where did Zai Zai disappear?" "Not far away, near the river in front. We went to wash up and left someone to watch, but Zai Zai disappeared just as he took a nap." "River?" Zhang Lingzi grabbed Zhang Kaiwen, who was about to run and look for him in a hurry. "I should be able to guess where Zai Zai is hiding." As soon as she finished speaking, she looked into Chi Chen's astonishingly bright eyes. "Hurry, hurry, hurry." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 89. Chapter 89 Naughty. Chi Chen and others caught up again. The cute and familiar black and white dumpling was no longer around, and the camera had no time to move away. Before the audience could wonder, they heard Zai Zai's words that he was disappointed. He didn't bother to accuse Zhang Lingzi of being too cold-blooded and hard-hearted. For a moment, he was so anxious that he almost couldn't help but throw the keyboard. Until they heard Zhang Lingzi say that she could guess where Zai Zai would be, some people questioned whether she was talking nonsense, but most people were like Chi Chen at the moment. "Then what are you waiting for? Go find it quickly. Zai Zai is still so young. What if we encounter any danger again? Please don't make a crow's mouth in front of me. Zai Zai will be safe and sound. If it wasn't too far away, I would have wanted to go there and look for him together. God bless me, Zai Zai will be fine." Zhang Lingzi originally wanted to tell her the location she guessed, but she was not completely sure, so she finally decided to go back and look for it herself. So everyone turned back the way they came. No one spoke along the way, and they were not in the mood to talk until they found Zai Zai safe. When they reached the river Chi Chen mentioned before, the eyes of everyone at the scene, as well as the audience in the live broadcast room, all focused on Zhang Lingzi. If Zhang Lingzi was familiar with internet buzzwords, then she could use one word to describe her now: the hope of the whole village. Chi Chen swallowed dryly. This time, he didn't even bother to drink a sip of water. He was afraid of wasting even a little time. At this moment, he asked in a hoarse voice, "Where is it?" Zhang Lingzi resisted everyone's gaze and glanced at several large trees that were almost 100 years old not far from the river. After a while, she locked onto one of them and walked over. Others saw this and followed closely. Following Zhang Kaiwen, they saw a small patch of familiar traces, left behind when they passed by here before and stopped to rest, light a fire and cook. Further forward, there is a big tree that even two people may not be able to hug. There is a tree hole with a diameter of less than 30 centimeters at the bottom of the big tree. Seeing the tree hole, he couldn't help but feel moved. Zhang Lingzi has already walked to the tree hole. She stretched out her hands to pull away the weeds and vines at the entrance of the hole. She lowered her head and looked into the tree hole. She was relieved when she saw the little guy curled up at the bottom of the tree hole, hugging his paws and sleeping soundly. It is indeed here. When she was resting here before, the little guy had secretly climbed into this tree hole and seemed to want to play hide and seek with her. After Zhang Lingzi found it once, the little guy seemed addicted to playing it, and hid it in the same place several times later. After all, you can't expect a young animal to have a high IQ. So when Zhang Lingzi learned that the little guy was missing near the river, the first thing Zhang Lingzi thought of was this tree hole that should be the most familiar to the little guy. Facts proved that her guess was correct. The weeds and vines at the entrance of the tree hole were pushed aside, and the block sunlight suddenly shone into the tree hole. The little guy moved his chubby body under the sun, opened his eyes and looked up. When he saw the familiar human being standing in front of the tree hole, he immediately stood up and grabbed the wall of the tree hole and started climbing up. When Zhang Kaiwen approached Zhang Lingzi and looked into the tree hole, he saw the little guy who was about to climb out. Suddenly he shouted in surprise, "It's really here." Such a shout immediately attracted everyone else. Zhang Lingzi picked up the little guy who was stretching out his paws towards her. She looked at the pure dependence in those sleepy eyes, and felt an incredible softness in her heart. In her previous life, she would have ordered the construction of a separate animal park for such a little guy, and even sent people to find a few of its kind to accompany it. But at this moment, she could only tug at the little guy's furry ears and said, "Naughty." Chi Chen squeezed Zhang Kaiwen away and came closer. Until he saw Zai Zai in Zhang Lingzi's arms, he was still a little unbelievable. How did Miss Zhang know that Zai Zai would come to this place? While Zhang Lingzi was skillfully smoothing the hair of the little guy in her arms, she responded to Chi Chen's doubts, "It probably didn't find me when it woke up and thought I was playing hide and seek with it again. There happened to be a tree it was familiar with ear holes, so I guess that's the most likely place it would choose." Chi Chen was watching the live broadcast while rushing on the road before, and he did see the interaction between Zhang Lingzi and Zai Zai in this tree hole, but he never thought that Zai Zai would hide himself in this tree hole after quietly leaving. Looking at Zai Zai, who woke up now, he looked like he had seen him in the live broadcast room before, relying on and trusting this Miss Zhang, and couldn't help but say, "How about?" What he wanted to say later was stopped in time. If this girl didn't have her own job, he would have wanted to recruit people to his department just because of her affinity with small animals. But after thinking about it, he knew it was unlikely, so he didn't say anything. Zai Zai was successfully found. The guests and the audience were excited and rejoiced, but then quickly turned to despair. Because what comes next is separation again. Zhang Lingzi looked at Su Zhao, who was standing behind Zhang Kaiwen. Su Zhao quickly understood the question she wanted to ask. Is it true that panda cubs cannot be kept privately? Su Zhao smiled bitterly and shook his head, "This is really impossible." Miss Zhang, looking at Zai Zai, who was holding Zhang Lingzi's arm tightly, Chi Chen felt like a villain who forcibly broke up a loving mother and son at this moment. "Leave Zai Zai to me. I promise, we will definitely do it later. Watch it closely, something like today will never happen again." Before Zhang Lingzi said anything, Zhang Kaiwen couldn't help but snorted, "We have never lost Zai Zai once when we were together before. It's better for you." "How long has it been since then?" "Zai Zai has lost it once. If it weren't for 11, Sister 11 is familiar with Zai Zai, whether Zai Zai can be found is another matter." Chi Chen's face felt hot when he was told this. The student behind him took a step forward to defend the teacher, but Chi Chen stopped him and apologized again, "I'm sorry." Zhang Kaiwen saw that his hair was messy and his lips were chapped, and it was hard to say anything now. He was anxious and flustered when he heard that Zai Zai was lost, so the person in front of him would be even more flustered than him. "You are still so old." He took a step back and said he would not pursue it further. Probably because she found that there were many strangers around, Zhang Lingzi tugged at the paw that was holding her arm. She couldn't pull it away for a while, so she could only suggest while smoothing the hair, "Professor Chi, how about this? You can follow first, let's film the show together and wait until Zai Zai gets acquainted with you before leaving. Or, Our show is coming to an end and we can leave together then. Before Chi Chen could make a decision, the audience in the live broadcast room who was reminded by her suddenly woke up. Is the show about to end? No. I haven't seen enough yet, don't let it end, just keep filming. This is a good suggestion, we can continue to watch Zizé again also, I strongly request the program team to continue filming. End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, X. Press 11. Chapter 90. Chapter 90. Does Zhang Lingzi have a cheat? It is naturally impossible to keep filming, but the audience still heard some satisfactory news. Chi Chen finally decided to agree to Zhang Lingzi's proposal. During the filming of the program, they will also follow along. While getting to know Zizé and getting to know each other, they will also borrow the program team's drones and other resources to find the whereabouts of Zizé's relatives. Li Shuo naturally agreed happily. His wish to touch the little guy has another chance to come true. However, even though they were traveling together, Chi Chen also said that they could stay out of the spotlight without being in the spotlight. After all, their main focus was only Zizé, who was not familiar with them. So a team that does not interfere with each other but has an important intersection was born. As a result, during dinner time on the first day of team formation, both sides had a bit of a break in defense. Zhang Lingzi and the others still use local materials and cook the edible food they pick from hunting in the simplest way, to be precise, roasting and boiling. On the other side, Chi Chen and his party ate bread, sausage, instant noodles and other food prepared by the program crew. In the past, when eating with the photographer, Zhang Kaiwen would consciously avoid the guests who were filming the program. After nearly a week, this was the first time Zhang Kaiwen saw the convenience food he used to eat. Obviously, these are foods that I am used to eating before, but now I can see and smell the food additives, and my saliva can't help but flow down from the corners of my mouth. Unexpectedly, Chi Chen and others couldn't help but swallowed quietly. It smells so good. They have long been tired of the convenience food in their hands. If they didn't need to eat something like this, they wouldn't eat it at all. Now looking at the barbecued fish in front of the program guests not far away, the pure smell of meat directly stimulates the nerves. Zhang Kaiwen looked at it and met the eyes of a young man behind Chi Chen. The souls of foodies began to attract each other, and both of them saw the desire for the food in the other's hands from the eyes of the other. Zhang Kaiwen suddenly stood up while holding the grilled fish in his hand, startling the Zizé who was still waiting obediently to be fed. Zhang Lingzi looked up and asked, "What are you doing?" "Sister Zixi, I want." Zhang Kaiwen hesitated for a while, but couldn't figure out how to say what she wanted to do, so she simply gritted her teeth and said, "Sister Zixi, you have been waiting for me to come back." Zhang Lingzi bit the grilled fish in her hand and looked at his back as she walked towards the opposite team without looking back. The photographer followed the agreement and did not follow him. Naturally, the audience in the live broadcast room did not know what he was doing. "I feel like my younger brother is looking like he's going to fight with someone." "Going to fight with grilled fish?" "Stop guessing, you should know it later." "It suddenly occurred to me that my brother is a snack addict everyone is eating right now. Well, I can probably guess what my brother is going to do. Can the previous one be ignored?" A few minutes later, Zhang Kaiwen, who had been speculated about countless times, finally returned to the camera. The grilled fish in his hand has disappeared, replaced by a pile of various packaged convenience foods in his arms. They never expected that he would be the audience with such a simple purpose. Zhang Lingzi watched Zhang Kaiwen come back with some speechlessness. Looking at his proud and smiling face, she thought he had exchanged the grilled fish for something special. "Are these delicious?" Zhang Kaiwen nodded without hesitation. "I usually think it's okay, but haven't I eaten it for several days? It feels so delicious." He handed over a ham and a bag of vacuum braised eggs in his hand. In the past, this brand of ham and braised eggs is the most delicious. Sister Zixi, please try it. Zhang Lingzi took it dubiously. After finishing the grilled fish in his hand, he tore open the packaging of the ham sausage. After taking a bite, his eyes suddenly lit up. How is it delicious? Zhang Lingzi tasted the much richer texture than the grilled fish just now, and nodded reservedly. Not bad. The audience watched them finish the food in their hands with great treasure, and actually felt a little sad at the end. If you think about it, the child hasn't had a tasty meal for several days. Every day he eats barbecue without salt. It's no wonder that he can't walk around after seeing all this junk food. I have never seen a female star like Zhang Lingzi touch these high-calorie junk foods. She seems to be really greedy. Looking at it this way, it's better not to keep filming, and let the kids go out to eat something good and then come back, haha. Zhang Kaiwen gnawed on the last bag of pickled pepper and chicken feet in his hand. As he gnawed, he noticed a gaze that he could not ignore. When he looked back, he saw Yu Hui staring at the pile of snacks he had exchanged. He hugged me and expressed his refusal to share. Of course, except Sister Zixi. If you want to eat, just change it yourself. May I? Do you think I'm going to change it back? After hesitating for 2 seconds, he took a deep breath, picked up the food in his hand and walked towards the other side. Li Shuo could not help blowing his beard when he saw this. It was Zhang Kaiwen again. Why is it that you are included in every game? In the end, only Lin Jing and Su Zhao were able to resist the temptation of convenience food. They looked at Zhang Kaiwen and Yu Hui, who were devouring the junk food they had bought next to them, and shook their heads with a smile. You are still young and have a strong appetite for food. However, Zhang Lingzi will soon no longer need Zhang Kaiwen to share the food with her. The students under Qi Chen will consciously bring some snacks every time they come over and want to get close to Zizai. It's time to hand over the tickets to see Zizai up close. Zhang Lingzi looked at the snacks in front of her that were more than what Zhang Kaiwen had exchanged for food, and touched the little guy's head. Not bad, they will all earn me food. The little guy rolled around on the ground with his eyes narrowed in comfort. Qi Chen watched in amazement. He had rescued several pandas over the years. Because of his work, he spent more time with pandas than his family, but he had never met one like Zizai. So clingy. It's a pity that it's not him who sticks to me. Asterisk. In a top styling studio in Imperial Capital. The long makeup session finally came to an end. Zhang Ziyu slowly opened his eyes at the reminder of the stylist. He looked at himself in the mirror in front of him and regained his radiance. He nodded reservedly, not bad. As long as teacher Zhang is satisfied. When Zhang Ziyu was doing makeup, Xiao Tao stayed by the side at all times, so that any instructions and requests could be carried out as quickly as possible. When she saw Zhang Ziyu stand up, she handed over the yogurt and a small plate of cut fruits that she had prepared earlier. Sister Xiao, the car that comes to pick you up will not arrive in half an hour. Please eat something first to cushion pad your belly. Zhang Ziyu lowered his head and glanced at the dress he was wearing. After making sure that his belly would not protrude from under the dress after eating, he forked a piece of fruit and put it in his mouth. While eating, he asked smoothly, in the live broadcast room, how is it now? Zizai was lost by those people. Oh, Zhang Ziyu didn't even bother to eat the fruit when he heard this, and asked, what happens after that? Have you found it? If she couldn't find it and lost a precious panda cub, she didn't believe the show could continue filming smoothly. She felt better anyway, and the program and the guests were not good either, so she felt much more comfortable. Xiao Tao saw the expectation on Zhang Ziyu's face, lowered her head without daring to look, and replied in a low voice, I found it, and, moreover, it was Zhang Lingzi who helped find it. Jiangzi language. Did Zhang Lingzi eat cheats before going on the show? But soon the stylist's dissuasive voice came from the side, Teacher Zhang, your makeup is a bit heavy today, and it's a bit troublesome to touch up your makeup. It's best not to make an exaggerated expression, and just smile at most. Jiangzi language. She can't laugh at all now? End of this chapter.